we don't need 1,000 of them, but and there may be some struggles. Me too. Let's go live on this then. Let's press the buttons. Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook on Friday the 2nd of December. So we've got the non-farm payrolls today is the big thing, and that will be the point of focus. Before I move on to that, firstly, I talked about us having the personal consumption expenditure out yesterday, and then didn't really emphasize how much the Fed are looking at it at the moment. Now, it did come out lower than expected. If we just go into this week for a moment, so the figures came out lower than expected here. There you are, personal. It came in at 0.2 versus 0.3, and some of the underlying data that sits with it as well were not where the expectations were. Basically, the forecast, it shows that there's a slowdown. The inflation, there's probably an early warning that inflation is going to slow down, and some of the interest rate increases, etc., that are expected may just not be quite as needed. So, or smaller ones might be coming through. So already 0.5% has been suggested for the next December meeting as the next increase. But the more important thing is how it runs through to next year. So people start pricing forward, and particularly for mortgages and everything else like this is so affected by what's happening and what's expected to happen. And it could be that in the US at least, there's a slowdown in spending and personal consumption expenditure. The inflation created by personal spending. So anyway, I thought I'd just run over that. So the non-farm payrolls become even more in focus, and in particular we'll be looking at this average earnings. We'll be looking to see if that's increasing. It's expected to come down 0.1 versus the last figure, so it's expected to come up 0.3. Already, okay, unemployment rate, they're expecting it to increase a point or a tenth. But so that's expected, and the numbers of new job change expected to come down well from last time. So all smallish numbers flicking through there. Morning in. So unemployment rate. Sorry, I'm looking at the Canadian data. Beg your pardon. But same in terms of US employment data expected to come down, and the employment rate 3.7. Not. I was looking at the Canadian data, so we've got the Canadian data there as well. Anyway, important. We'll be watching for it. What can happen beforehand? Well, things can go slow, and I'm sort of expecting that. Let's look through these markets then. We'll start off looking at the euro dollar and what's happened. So yesterday it's continued to the upside. Basically, if you inverted this chart, you'll see it will be the dollar index, as opposed to it will look the same as the dollar index, and effectively the dollar index is falling, and this sort of shove here looks like it's got some more legs in. At one stage when we had the double top back on the 28th, that looked like, well, perhaps it's going to roll some more, but the sentiment, the big money sentiment, was still and has remained bullish on the euro for some time now, and well, it's remaining in that sort of direction, and well, sure enough, we're seeing pricing. The analysis must be much more advanced than what we're seeing, and they can see, well, there's potential for the euro to push up further yet. Now, getting into a trade is another matter. If you're not already long on the euro, and I'm not already long on the euro, I would add, it could be a bit more difficult. It's got a triple top where it's sitting at the moment on this hourly, and well, we'll see what happens. I'm going to trade the non-farms later, or the post non-farms later, so I'll be looking to trade that later. So most likely in my plan for the morning is see what happens. If this was to pull down back to the daily and catch any sort of reversal, then perhaps I'd be interested on the long side. I don't really want to go short back down to the daily pivot, although it's got good probability of being hit. It's against where the trend is at the moment, so difficult one there for me right now on the euro, and you'll see this on a lot of the markets. The pound's looking a little bit more, got a bit of potential, but again, it's sort of upside potential. It's already broken this sort of downward trend line that's sitting there. It's got to close above it, of course. It might give us some money to the upside post 8 o'clock. Want to see what happens. We'll give a little bit of time first, but it's got some scope there. The yen again, it's just been following through. I was discussing earlier on how beautifully it had come back to its weekly pivot there and sold off, and absolutely, there was all sorts of options of getting into this trade. If only you were up at sort of or trading about 6 in the evenings or later. So it all went when I wasn't around. So not that I've been normally traded. I went normally trade at those sort of times in the evening, but there we go. It's a beautiful example, but nothing to help me at the moment, and it's just selling off. Now again, I'd be looking for retracements, but at the moment we just see on this hourly time frame it's just going, so it's without me for now. Aussie dollar pushing up here, higher lows confirmed. It's a bit of a butterfly pattern that we're seeing here with the Aussie dollar. If anything, and we started to seeing some weakness, I'd probably jump a ball short on the Aussie. It is weaker than the other markets. This butterfly pattern, classic butterfly, is normally a sort of a sell sign. However, I don't want to be selling into these highs. But if things start rolling over out there in other markets, dollar may gain some strength. This might be where we see quite a bigger reaction. So I'm looking for the weakest links, and this has got some potential weakness. Dollar CAD, well, again, it's we looked at it a couple of days ago. It's run into its trend line strong. Yesterday it's just sluggish and slow, and of course we got the data out later today, so I expect this to be almost a continuation. I was looking actually, and I didn't draw it on here because it draws on everything when I do it, but I was looking along this sort of line here. But with the news coming out later, I think it's almost safer if you wanted to be trading this. You do so after the non-farms, but it might give something this morning. But the Canadian's a classic market where it runs okay until about the 10 o'clock, and then it can go pretty flat and take your money back. So be wary. Okay, they're the majors. Let's have a look then through some other markets here. We'll go across to the actually, let's just have a look at gold first. Just coming out here, so gold benefiting from a softer dollar, always the case here. Stronger movement at the moment, pushing up very strongly, and well, continuing that upside for now. It's bullish through the time frames. Again, there's no way you'll get me shorting this. There'll be, in fact, if we were to look at the retail sentiment at the moment, there's probably people coming through now and starting to sell gold. I might be wrong, but that's generally what we see when we see the markets moving like they are. Oil pitched up into its new monthly pivot, and it's reacting off of that at the moment and looking soft as we go through this morning. So just looking a little bit softer, but I saw cuts of production and things like this discussed, and maybe there's more upside yet, but I quite like how it's pulling back bigger in the bigger picture. It's sort of bear flaggy sort of territory. In fact, I've got a better chart than this on oil. Let's just switch to crud. There we go. It looks a bit better. It's not quite so gappy. So continuous contract, but had its reaction off the pivot there. We'll see. It's bouncing a little bit on this at the moment. Anyway, there we go. That's oil. Let's move back to the indices, and we'll just quick look at the high level on these Asian indices. Even If only I could speak this morning. CSI 300 then coming off again today. It's filling that gap. Still a bit of uncertainty. I thought we might have seen a little bit more bullishness with the changes to the Chinese data, etc. Let's not go any further on that. Let's stick on that. Don't really need to go because we're not trading. Well, I'm not trading these. It's more for overall analysis, see where these markets may be leading. Nikkei well down today. Again, we're seeing this market. We're seeing this across a lot of the markets as start of the sort of I say start, but seeing them sell again with none of these markets, particularly this Nifty 50. Would I want to be thinking, well, this is a top now, I'm going to start selling it? It's for all day long. It's a long. If you can get a decent retrace and it gives you a signal, it's a buy basis. Why would you want to go against such a strong push? I know there'll be people, because I know some of them that will be wanting to short these markets, yet they're pushing up pretty strongly. S&P's solid. Yesterday, bit of a dull day in its consolidation. We've got non-farms out, and this is a sort of a bit of pre-reaction. We've already seen the sort of the talk from Wednesday when it was sort of it was a bit more dovish than had been. Yesterday's data coming in there was where was it? 1 o'clock. Didn't really do too much, although it got a little bit of a kicker. Then we got the reaction at 3, but we'll see how this runs through, but I expect more chop on the S&Ps as we run through the day, this morning at least, on the futures. Dow, similar picture. It's sort of the same consolidation when you look at the shorter time frames, and the Nasdaq not too dissimilar again. Yesterday it was it's done a little spinning top there for now, but I expect further upside. The more we see, we'll see what happens with wage inflation later on, etc. But I'm expecting the more dovish view to go through and be good for the equity markets. Okay, DAX. Let's have a look at the DAX in a bit more detail then. For those DAX traders, it still hasn't shaken out of these sort of horrible ranges, and it really is struggling where it is. Short term, okay, it got a decent sell yesterday morning, and it really rolled over there yesterday morning, and then got into this really horrible mess. To me, it's just a horrible mess at the moment, and these sort of charts aren't for me. I'll go and trade something that looks nice. The FTSE, let's just come out the bigger time frame. I've got the futures contract of the FTSE sitting on here now, so it's rolling, it's live and kicking. A bit more positive this morning. It says it's actually not that much positive this morning at all. It moved to the downside. It gapped from the close, but anyway, still relatively bullish. It's just a case of when it becomes a bit more bullish, possibly looking for the upside. More conservative would be looking above it on the weekly, looking above the weekly daily pivot. But at the moment, I imagine there's a fair few sellers coming into this price action, retracing back to its 21, etc. The sellers coming through, but I still think we've got scope for upside on these equity markets, and they could go quite quickly if they get a kicker. Anyway, there we go. That's pretty much it before the weekend. Anything there? Nope. Good. I can get on and wish you a great day's trading, and I'll catch you in the morrow. No, I won't catch you tomorrow unless you're sitting around Saturday trading. No, we're not going to be sitting around trading cryptos. So I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.